Hey guys, it's Jess with Coastal, and as you can see my picture, I've grown rabbit ears. But that's just what we're here to talk about actually today with our nutrition talk going on this week. We have our friends from Nutrena, once again, Brian and Ann. They're going to talk today about, let me guess if you can guess what animal. So yeah, we're going to talk about rabbits. So yeah, Brian, Ann, how's it going?
Doing great. Glad to be back.
That's
Doing
good.
very well.
That's good. Everybody having a good week so far?
So far.
Yes.
I like the addition.
Yeah, I know. You like that? My little fuzzy ears. It almost fits just perfect. Gotta love technology.
I should have tried to find some from like Easter or something and put them on my head too.
It didn't quite. That would have been pretty good. That would have been pretty good. Oh man, so rabbits. I will admit, rabbits are something I know little to nothing about, other than I've had a rabbit once or twice in my life, but they're not high up on my list of knowing. But there's a lot of complexity, I guess, to rabbits as well too. So, let's talk nutrition. For those of you guys that are just tuning in, we're talking about rabbits with our friends from Nutrena. And if you have any questions during this at all, feel free to just post them below this video. And we'll take a look. We're going to be monitoring those, and I'll make sure to ask those to our two experts today, and we'll try to answer those for you. But just getting started, I guess, rabbits and nutrition, I don't know, is there something, I've always just, pictured the rabbits eating carrots and like that kind of stuff. But like a lot of things, maybe what we always see isn't always maybe the best thing for them, So what kind of nutrition do rabbits need, and what do you guys have to offer?
Absolutely. So to start off, like rabbits, they're solely vegetarians, which we would all kind of know that, right? Veggies. And honestly, kind of a fun fact, the closest animal, let's see if you know this, Jess, that the rabbits are like their digestive system. Do you know what animal they're closely related to?
I'm going to take a guess. Cattle?
No.
Oh, I don't know. They don't have multiple stomachs.
No, so a rabbit and a horse actually have very almost identical digestive systems.
Oh, there you go.
Kind of a fun fact, right? So, but here at Nutrena, we actually have 2 Nutrena specific feeds for rabbits as well, that Coastal carries, as well as a Country Companion line. So I'm just going to kind of go over in details of like what we have to offer that way. Some treats and snacks you can give them, as well as maybe some breeds. And then Brian's going to cover some health related topics with rabbits as well. So kind of starting off, we have 3 options. Nature-wise, Performance Rabbit is our first option I love to talk about because it's an 18% protein, but it's got some awesome bells and whistles. And with those bells and whistles, it's going to be a natural nutrition selection for all ages of rabbits, whether you're breeding, showing, you have lactating does, young litters, or you're breeding bucks. This is a great option even for your larger breeds because it does have an 18% protein, a little higher fiber at 20%, and 3.5% fat compared to our other options. But some key bells and whistles is that we have added yucca extract, which that helps with odor and also enhances the palatability of the feed. We have added pre and probiotics, which everybody knows gut health is important. So that's going to help keep the rabbits on the feed as well as a healthy gut tract. And a big one that we have in our nature-wise option for rabbit feed is papaya. So not only does this support the digestive system, but it also helps with fur control. So we know we have some breeds like the Angora, right? If you think of an Angora rabbit, they're like really crazy hair, or even like the Jersey Woolies and like the lion head breeds, we're thinking really fluffy. This is going to help with fur ball control as well. Kind of a natural option.
So they get fur balls the same way cats get fur balls? I mean, that is hilarious. I did not know. It sounds like they eat pretty exotic, like yucca and mango. And man, I don't even eat that exotic. Shoot.
Yeah. I feel like we should be on an island somewhere.
I know, exactly.
But we also have, so that's a great option for your larger breed of rabbits, right? Because it does have that little extra protein, and even show rabbits, performance rabbits, or if you're needing a little bit extra for your breeding does. The next option we do have is a nature-wise 15%, and it's a premium rabbit feed. It's going to have all the same bells and whistles as your performance feed, right? Your yucca, your pre and probiotics, your papaya, but it's going to be a 15% protein, an 18% fiber, a 3% fat, right? So this is usually more geared to your smaller breed of rabbits, maybe that they don't need quite that higher protein or that fat or that fiber. They're not growing as big, you're not trying to keep that much weight on them. They're just a smaller breed altogether. Those are both of our nature-wise rabbit feeds that we have there. And the big thing is it's a natural product, right? There's no added preservatives, colors, artificial, anything like that. So kind of cool. And so those are available there at Coastal. And we also have our Country Companion rabbit line that we manufacture for you guys, right? That's your guys' private label. Cool thing about this product, it's a big bag, right? It's a 50-pound bag. So people that have lots of rabbits, it's a great quality feed that you can buy, and it comes with a bigger buying option. So that's great. And it's not necessarily also required to feed hay with these pellets, but rabbits do love hay. So offering, high quality hay to them is also maybe considered. Personal preference. You guys know your rabbits. People can choose kind of what quality or what type of hay, depending on the breed. But definitely it's nice to have, especially with breeding does when they go to wean their young, they'll kind of put some hay in there too to kind of help your weaning. But yeah, so then moving on, who doesn't like treats, right? I mean, rabbit, I love snacks.
We all know what I was eating before before we went live anyway, so we won't say, but it may or may not have been ice cream. It's a good afternoon snack. I'm sure rabbits aren't eating on ice cream though in the afternoons.
Right. So to add a little bit of zest to these, they're usually a purely pellet or, some hay diet. They love snacks, right? So there's some veggies and fruits you can add. Apples, right? That's a great thing you can add. And we know, like Bugs Bunny, they love carrots. This is what I was eating just while you were eating ice cream. Grapes and bananas and things like that. But just a reminder, it is a treat. It is a snack. So a little bit goes a long way. So, a couple small chunks, twice a day, morning and night, is all they need. It's just something to kind of give them something else to chew on and get a little vitamins and minerals from some other natural, but also making sure before you do it right away all the time. I always tell people, put a little bit in there, make sure you're not going to upset their digestive tract, right? You don't get any upset stomachs. So just, but they love snacks, but keep proportions small to avoid stressing out their GI tract. But
so just like with anything, if I eat ice cream every day, it probably wouldn't be very beneficial to my health. But rabbit, same way, just keep the snacks in proportion to, it's not your everyday food. It's not your, it's something to treat them to once in a while. And do that. Well, good.
Exactly.
So another quick question, maybe you're going to answer this, but like with anything, you have meat rabbits, you have show rabbits, you have breeding rabbits, are you going to feed all those the same? Or, if you're raising a rabbit for meat or versus show, you're probably going to feed those differently. But I'm assuming there's some similarities.
There's going to be some similarities, yes, right? You're going to still be on the vegetarian-based diet. They're still going to have like that high protein, the fiber, right? They're still going to encompass the same amount. But it's just going to depend exactly what you're using for. So obviously meat rabbits are going to have a different end in sight. So they're going to be quality. They're going to have a, shorter amount, fast growing, etc. But then show rabbits, you're going to focus too on their fur and making sure they look good. So, having the added vitamin A, which definitely helps with their fur and silkiness and things like this. It depends on what you're doing with them. There's, your high-end Angora rabbit, yes, he's very friendly, but like he's a lot of maintenance a little bit, as far as he's very fluffy. And so if you're just looking for a pet rabbit to have, your kids have, there's great, awesome breeds. Usually they're, smaller ones, easy, little, docile, easy to handle. There's also, great thing about rabbits is that, they're inexpensive. They're clean. They're, you know, and they're super cuddly, they're super cute, and they're really intelligent. So they make great pets.
Oh no.
They're fun to, and you know, I know, Jess, you have some kids there. I mean, we just need to get you some rabbits.
No, I know, and they love rabbits, and I know rabbits do make. I had some friends growing up, and some people I know today too that have house rabbits, and they've taught them to go to the door, to go outside. I mean, they've taught them all kinds of stuff. They are smart boogers.
They're super smart.
It's pretty cool.
Growing up, I had 2, and ours were litter box trained within like 3 months, and they did it themselves, kind of like a cat would. That might be a rare occurrence, and both of them lived like 16 years. They were.
They'll live. I've heard that they'll live a long time. So Brian, would you be considered an Angora rabbit then? You're very fluffy and high, and high maintenance. Is that kind of the?
This is quarantine right here. This is I haven't been to the barber shop yet. And I don't trust myself because the last time I did it, I had to full clean shave because I slipped and the bar fell off. So this is quarantine.
There you go. Well, hey guys, if you're just tuning in, we're talking with our friends from Nutrena, Brian and Ann, and we're talking about rabbits and rabbit nutrition. If you can't tell by my rabbit ears here. So yeah, feel free if you have a question to ask. We're monitoring those, and we'll just continue talking. If you have a question, we'll try to do our best to answer that for you.
I would have to say some fun breeds too. I don't know if you know these or, you know, Google them, or if you're maybe someone who's watching at home and you're not so sure where to go. I'd have to say my favorite is between the Jersey Woolly and the lion head. And if you can imagine what those look like, right? They're little puffballs, but they're little tiny things. They're probably my 2 favorite. Obviously the mini Rex rabbit is a very popular one as well, but to have some fun colors and kind of some crazy hairdos, the lion head and the Jersey Woolly are really, really fun to have. And like, I know every time I see them in the store, I mean, I'm an adult and I catch myself walking over to check them out. So can you imagine having that as a kid in your home? So,
oh man.
But I think Brian has some health stuff too, that he was going to go over in case anybody has any questions about that.
Yeah. So, I would say that my favorite breed of rabbit, just so you know, is in New Zealand because they feel like velvet. Their coat is so smooth.
I think we have some of those in our stores right now. They're really it's like a really tight, fine. Yeah.
So of the 2 rabbits, one was in New Zealand and one was a lop. And the New Zealand, it was just the smoothest thing. His name was Angus. He was great.
That's awesome.
So I was going to go over some common diseases that happen, and then things that we can do to help mitigate, because it's hard to find vet care for rabbits. I would recommend if you're buying a rabbit, you look up a vet in your area that will do exotic pets, because many vets won't. So you're not going to be able to take it to just the average dog and cat vet, because a lot of times they don't know. And like Annie was saying, their digestive system is most similar to horses. And so they end up with extra problems because they don't have the ability to throw up. So you really have to watch what they can get, because they'll colic like a horse.
Interesting.
And so it's a little extra tricky. But the first one is Sniffles, which is, it makes sense. Right. So it's a nasal infection. There's no vaccine available. There are antibiotics, but they have to come from a vet. There are not over-the-counter antibiotics that are safe for rabbits at any farm store that I am familiar with. And I did go through all of Coastal's website and look for things.
And you can't give rabbits like penicillin or, you know, the good old LA200 or something like that to help with things.
Anything that's not labeled, I wouldn't be able to recommend, but I wouldn't try it out. Rabbit system in general is just, it's a little more fragile than a cattle or a horse or something.
Well, and the dosing.
Yeah, and the dosing would be so small.
Yeah.
So very, very small. And then enteritis. Enteritis is kind of a catch-all term. It's very similar to like colic, because colic in a horse can mean a million things. Enteritis in rabbits can mean a million things, but it's an inflammation of the intestines somewhere along the track. And so it could be something simple and it just goes away, or it could be very, very dangerous. Normally, You would find it in younger rabbits from 7 weeks to 14 weeks, 14 weeks, not years old, 14 weeks. And they are just getting on food at that point in time, because they would normally wean about 6 weeks. And so what you would see is that the gut bugs that are going to help in that hindgut fermentation aren't developing correctly. And so that's called mucoidal enteritis. And that is just, it's not good. The best way to actually mitigate that is to feed them some of their own poop.
Oh, weird.
Because that'll reintroduce gut bugs that have passed.
Oh,
so
okay.
if
You're
you're
just
seeing
replenishing
a
the-
suffering rabbit in that 7 to 14 week phase, a little bit of poop could go a long way. And it's actually very, very normal for rabbits to eat their own feces. It's not as gross as it sounds.
That was
even though
my
it
next
sounds really
question was, how do you get a rabbit to eat its own poop? I mean, do you just kind of crush it up and sprinkle it in its food, or what?
No, you just stick the little pellets in there and they'll go for it.
Weird.
Yeah, it's a pretty natural process for them. And then in adult rabbits, you would normally see non-mucoidal enteritis, which again is that inflammation of the intestines. But that's normally, you would find diarrhea along with it, or a watery stool. And that typically has to do with too much starch and sugars. So we're not getting either the right fiber content, so they need more hay or more pellets, or we're feeding too many treats.
Too many snacks.
Because while carrots don't look like sugar, they break down into sugars.
Yep.
Yeah. So to avoid those, we make sure that we change the diet over slowly. If you're changing rabbit foods, they recommend you do it over 7 to 10 days. It's a very slow process, very gradual, just because their system is so fragile. Make sure you're feeding appropriate levels of fiber, so adding extra hay, and then always have clean water, because anytime you have diarrhea, you're going to risk dehydration. So make sure that they have plenty of clean water available to them. Stress, I know growing up, my parents always told us that rabbits were very prone to heart attacks. And it is because they're prey animals. So they have, in terms of fight or flight, they have that flight down. And if you put them in a cage, they can't flight. So they stress really easily. So things to try and avoid is, if they're outdoor rabbits, you want to make sure that they are completely enclosed so that predators can't get into them. If you find unseasonable weather, so if it's the middle of summer and we have a cold snap, they're not going to be prepared for that. Or if it's in the middle of winter and we have a lot of high temperatures, they're not going to be prepared for that naturally. And so you would need to adjust accordingly. So in the middle of summer, get really cold, you add extra bedding to try and make sure that they can keep themselves warm, and vice versa in the winter. And then when weaning the kits, the baby rabbits, you typically don't remove baby rabbits from mom in terms of the cage. You remove mom from the baby rabbits, because the babies are going to be more comfortable in the cage that they've always been in, and it's going to be much less stressful on them than if you did it the other way around.
Well, and if they're so fragile anyways, that's probably very, very true. Yeah. You don't want to give them any other extra stress that they don't need. Exactly.
And then the last one that I was going to go over is coccidiosis. We normally talk about this in terms of chickens, but it can affect every animal we keep on our farms. But cocci is a protozoa that lives in damp soil. So if you are on the western part of Oregon or Washington, we have damp
an abundance of damp soil. I mean, it's like, what do you need? We got damp soil.
Right. So keeping your rabbits elevated off of the damp soil is ideal. And then making sure that when you're introducing new animals to each other, you quarantine them for a while, which we should all be familiar with at this point in time, to make sure that you're not putting anyone sick in with anyone healthy.
That's good. That's good. Well, no, that's a lot of good stuff. And who knew there was so much, about caring for rabbits. So one of the things I see too is, like with cattle, we give them salt blocks. We have mineral available, that kind of stuff. We also will sell those cute little rings of like salt and different minerals that are for our small critters. Is this something that they need to have, that they should have all the time? Or, I mean, is this considered a treat? What's the balance there with that?
So rabbits in general are really good at self-regulating, and they kind of know what they need. So having one available isn't a bad idea, and they'll use it as they see fit. Now, I would watch it if they start, if your kids aren't playing with them like they once were, and they're getting really, really bored, they will start using it as a toy and eating full chunks instead of licking it. So if you're seeing it come off the wheel in chunks and not licks, then I would remove it for a few days.
Gotcha. They'll get bored and start binging on what tastes good.
Exactly. It's something to entertain them.
That's
you
good.
know. I've definitely bored 8 before, so I get it.
I think some of us all have during this time of quarantine. Anyways, we've all bored 8. Oh shoot! But well, good. Well, we don't really have any questions or anything right now. But you know what? If you guys, thanks for kind of tuning in with us here this evening for our nutrition talk. We have another one. Just so you guys know, this is a weekly talk that we're doing with our friends from Nutrena. And who knows what we're going to talk about next week. Anything having to do with nutrition from your pets, both big and small. And so Brian, Ann, thanks again for tuning in. If you guys have other questions, Brian and Ann will monitor our the posts here, and they'll try to respond and answer anything that they can. But yeah, thank you guys. Thanks so much. It's been a lot of fun. I learned a lot about rabbits, and I think Brian's new nickname is the Angora. So
Nice.
At least until he gets that shaved, I don't know, but at least it's not covering his eyes or anything yet,
It's under the hat.
Oh, that's under the hat. Okay, there you go. You pull it back. Shoot. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. You guys all have a wonderful evening, and look forward to seeing you and everyone else next week.
Sounds great. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.